can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. It's too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. Too easy. It's too easy. I've been there, done it, seen it. Boy, all that like Keenan. Still got crack, they fiendin'. Flow still hot like Phoenix. Shine so bright, I'm gleaming. This off top, I'm tweaking. Fresh out the rat like Neiman. And I'm still trying to fight my demons. Cause we all gotta hike like Tina. That's why I gotta ride with the Nina. Outside, it's a war going on. Maybe put my hands on my head like the Macarena.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. We begin again within 7 days of the last mass shooting with more news of a mass shooting coming out of Boulder, Colorado. Dozens of police officers in Boulder were responding to reports of a shooting at a grocery store on Monday, where witnesses reported hearing gunshots and seeing several people wounded in and around the building. Over loudspeakers, police officers called to the scene could be heard saying that the entire building was surrounded and that they needed the suspect needed to surrender. Police officers set up hazard tape around the supermarket and closed off a street nearby. The recent reports is that 10 people have been confirmed killed by this shooter. I want us to take a listen to one of the witnesses. First, I want us to listen to this witness as he describes the scene and also describes how regular this occurrence has become for us in this country. Take a listen in.
Just terrified, honestly. I was in shock initially when we realized what was happening. And once I called my mom and said I was okay and let her know what was happening, and it all kind of sunk in, and I started panicking and realizing that, like, I don't even know, like, the fact that it's happening all over America, seeing it on the news, like, something I've grown up with, like, people my age and my generation were used to this, and it's just never something that I think would ever happen in my town, like, where I'm.
I want to read a statement from the office of the governor, Jared Polis, and this is what he had to say. He said, they had to say, "My heart is breaking as we watch this unspeakable event unfold in our Boulder community. We're making every public safety resource available to assist the Boulder County Sheriff's Department as they work to secure the store. I'm incredibly grateful to the brave men and women who have responded to the scene to help victims of this senseless tragedy. This is very much an active situation, and we are continuing to monitor it very closely." And he continued on. I want to bring James and Rebecca, I want to bring you guys both into this conversation because we're not even, I think, 7 days now since the mass shooting in Atlanta that took 8 lives. And now we have another mass shooting this time in Colorado. And the suspects match the same description. In fact, I believe we have video of the suspect being taken into custody. If we take a look at that, it will speak for itself really quickly. Let's take a look at the video of him being taken into custody. And you can see another white man with a gun being taken alive.
This is my first time seeing this.
Me
yeah.
Being taken alive after killing a police officer, right? There was a police officer who was killed in this exchange. Mm-hmm. And bodies. I didn't know the extent to which footage of this was out, Rebecca, until I saw your tweet last night about the bodies on the ground, in the parking lot, in the store. And we're obviously not going to show that footage. But this guy went in with an AR-15 and did what angry white men with AR-15s have done over and over and again. Rebecca.
Yep. So it was interesting to see how we reacted to. I want to start there. How we reacted to the Colorado shooting, mass murder, because when it happened, usually we'll see our timelines filled from the top to bottom as a breaking or developing news story, and within an hour, it still wasn't something that was trending on our timelines. We could all vouch for that. Like, we can look through our timelines and it was like Miami or whatever the case may be. Meanwhile, there was an actual another domestic terrorist attack happening in that particular moment. And when I thought it was like, okay, they were just saying that this was an attack that happened maybe like, a while back and we're just not discussing it right now. Maybe it was the anniversary of one because we've had so many. So when I went to go look, it was actually happening right then in that moment. And the situation was still active. Right. And I accidentally clicked on a post. And I wish that I knew what I was going to see before I clicked on it. And when I saw the bodies just on this man's live, I think the man was so in shock, he was so calm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the bodies that were just on the street, and he just took the video and put it towards the store, and the bodies that were just in the store, just like that. Yeah. Just like that. And when I say that thing shut me down for the rest of the day, I tried to look for other things to ease my mind. I did not even want to go to the store. I had to go to the store. I had to leave. And it was just all so scary for me. I'm just like, God, I'm in this store. I'm the only Black person in the store. And it's funny because now I'm looking like these white people are walking up behind me. I'm getting all scared. I'm going into the next lane. It is just very uncomfortable. So seeing that and knowing that it's another white man being walked out again, after shooting a cop out of, amongst the 10 people that died, just hearing the gunshots, it's trauma all over again. And I am sorry to anybody who, is triggered when they see this or hear this. And I feel like I'm becoming triggered when I see this or hear this. So when I say that we're becoming desensitized to this, it's almost like the media wants us to become desensitized, but then it's also like in the same breath, we need a breather. When are we going to get a breather? And it's just like, this is happening so much. This is the other countries. America likes to paint other countries as scary and dangerous, but we can't even go to the supermarket. We can't do anything without mostly a white terrorist being a issue in these streets. Yeah. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was DJing a wedding last night, so I saw the alert come across my phone to get news alerts, but I didn't get a chance to click on it and see what it was. So it wasn't until I was talking to someone last night and they told me what happened. I'm just like, are you serious? It hadn't even been a week since the last shooting. And Rebecca is right. One of the conversations that we actually had on the phone last night, I said, bro, I'm like, honestly, I ain't gonna say I'm scared to go places, but I'd rather just stay at home. Yeah. Because now you don't know what's going to happen to you. Yeah. And it's just ridiculous. And then Rebecca, and I hate to say this or share this, but I was talking to one of my managers, excuse me, and he said he was in a grocery store here in Atlanta. A grocery store that everybody is familiar with, of course, that's frequented by clear people. And so I had to make it funny a little bit, y'all. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's heavy this morning, man.
It's just a lot.
So, but he was in the grocery store. My manager's black guy. And he is one of the nicest persons that you'll ever meet. And as he's in the store doing his shopping, he makes eye contact with the white guy that's in the store. The white guy makes eye contact with him and then looks down at his gun. And then he just walks on and keeps looking at him. I'm just like, and my boss was like, he was like, he didn't know what to do at that moment. It was just like he just kept on walking, but it was just like, what the hell?
Yeah, it makes
no sense.
Jada and I, we went to Barnes and Noble yesterday to pick up a book because I didn't want to get it from Amazon because last time I did, my daughter called me out about buying a book from Amazon. So we went to Barnes and Noble, and in the parking lot yesterday, as I'm getting ready, I was coming out masked up, and here's this white guy packing his backpack, and he took out his gun from the car and just put it in his backpack. And I had to remind myself that this is Georgia, right? He's the Second Amendment. That's what we all about the Second Amendment. But I'm gonna be honest with you, like in my mind, I felt like I needed to go in and warn the people that another white guy is coming in with a gun. Because at this level, at this stage, should we take these risks and say, oh, he's just exercising his Second Amendment right? Or is this another angry white dude who's getting ready to shoot up the place? Yeah. And then I sat in the parking lot for a minute with Jada, and we thought about like what, and then I'm like, this is Georgia, this is what they do. But should we have to continuously take that chance for the sake of people like the NRA, organizations like the NRA, who want guns to be so ubiquitous and so just everywhere? They want everybody to have a gun because the gun manufacturers make all the money, and the gun manufacturers then donate to the NRA, and the NRA staff could be filthy rich. And while in the meantime, the result of it, the cause and the effect of this is that across the country, you never know, one, how easy it was for somebody to get the gun that they're walking in, and whether or not they are just exercising their Second Amendment right, or whether or not they're an angry white man that's going to blow everybody away. Right. And so in my mind, I'm like, I hope I don't hear anything on the news. But we did. But it wasn't Georgia. It was Colorado just a few moments later. And this is the problem that we're facing in this country. And the NRA actually put up a post yesterday, immediately after we found out that there was a mass shooting, talking about the Second Amendment. And I'm like, you all are more concerned with posturing, political posturing, and these bodies, the bodies of those people were barely cold. That's where we are. The political climate in this country is one that's going to get us killed. It's going to destroy this country from the inside, because they're more concerned about protecting the rights of people to own guns than they are about protecting the lives of the people who are the victims of these kind of shootings.
Yeah. And what's interesting, there's a lot of things that are interesting about this, because the woman that we were talking about yesterday, Lauren Boebert, who's a representative out of Colorado, was actually tweeting, right? We know that she loves guns. She talks about guns. You can just literally go through her videos on her social media pages, and she constantly talks about her rights to have guns. She says that if the governor tells her that she can't serve Jesus Christ, if they come to her door, she knows how to protect herself for that. She says things like that. She says that we should have guns, and she's been rooting for it. She said that she should be able to have a tanker. If she has automatic weapons, she should be able to have tankers around her home because she has 5 acres or something of that nature. So many times she's been in the media or on her social media stating how much she loves guns. During the mass shooting, she actually was tweeting about something totally different, like nothing about the mass shooting. Mind you, she's a representative out of Colorado. Right. And this is what we see, and this is what we have. These people are insensitive, and they rather have access and give access to or give people access to guns for free. Yeah. Nothing that needs to go in place, no rules, no regulation, just give them access to guns for free. And I wanted to read this that came out of the Denver Post about 3 days ago, March 18th, 2021. A judge blocked Boulder from enforcing its 2-year-old ban on assault weapons and large capacity magazines in the city, setting up the chance for the state Supreme Court to review whether Colorado cities can create their own restrictions on gun ownership. So the Boulder County District Court judge ruled Friday that the city can't enforce its ordinance banning the possession, transfer, or sale of assault weapons and large capacity magazines because the state law says local governments can't prohibit the possession or sale of firearms. And this was just
3 days
on March
ago.
18th, 2021. And boom.
4 or 5 days.
Later. Yeah. A few days later, here we are, and in this same state where they don't really care to put any restrictions on that, or not even hearing the people who want the restrictions.
Right.
Somebody goes in and just shoots up people just like that.
That's the thing. The people, they're doing this even opposed to the will of the people, because the majority of Americans actually prefer some mild gun control, like background checks, kind of a waiting period. 2 pretty standard things that would absolutely help prevent some of these shootings. Because as we saw in Atlanta, he got the gun the same day. Would he have been in a murderous rage 3 days later after a 3-day waiting period? Possibly because, white grievance is a pretty potent thing, but somebody could have found him out. Maybe one of his parents would have seen he had weapons in his bedroom. But all I know is that they are more concerned with protecting guns than they are protecting lives. And this is America's Achilles heel. Like this, there's literally nothing that we can do politically to even roll this back. Not because it's impossible, but because the political will is not there. And I knew this, and I came to grips with this after Sandy Hook. After that man went in there and massacred children, and we did nothing, I knew America would never do anything about guns, and we would allow that to be the cancer that kills us from within. And that's what's happening right now. All right. Let's go to a break. When we come back, I want to play a clip of somebody from TikTok. And it's very relevant to what's going on. In fact, he sent this clip out maybe 2 or 3 hours before the mass shooting. And it is so powerful. James, take us to a quick break, more likely or not, after this.
Why don't you get it by now? Tell me what you learned in grade school. Give it to me like you want it.
Good morning,
Did you forget that golden rule?
Welcome to another edition of Black and White. It's Tuesday, March 23rd,
It should really be give and take. Fill you up and leave me empty. Baby, was that my mistake? Covering these feelings.
Good morning, mama. Good morning, Sensation, y'all. Good morning, everyone. Make sure that you're hitting that like button. Make sure that you comment, share, and subscribe, y'all, so you know when liking it is going down.
So I'ma just tweet it and delete it, knowing you won't read it before we get too far away. I need to clear my mind. I'd rather just tweet it and delete it before we cross the line and we reach a point we can't rewind. I just wanna get it right with you.
David, me as well, and good morning to you.
About it, our history says we'll just argue, and I know you're gonna act a fool, and then no one could tell the difference between me and you, babe. Watching from a distance, hiding these feelings, going through changes. I'm just so mad, but now it's at my own expense.
Ananda, I don't think anybody has, honestly. Chuck Diesel, good morning, sir. Good morning. Shout out to you, Chuck Diesel. Happy birthday, Pixie the Moon. We see you. Happy birthday to you.
Before we cross the line and we reach a point we can't.
Nat Squad in the building. Nat A, Nat M. Good morning, y'all. Purple Rain Hearts, good morning.
To release, to relax, to let
Courtney,
my
good morning, Courtney. Bailey, good morning. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Bailey?
Knowing you won't read it before we get too far away.
Brother Latif, Brenda, Mara, good morning, y'all.
I'd rather just tweet it and delete it.
Black, good morning. Nat M, I love you too. Shout out to everybody that's on Twitch. I'm coming to y'all shortly, okay?
We can't rewind. Rewind.
Try to forgive, 'cause we all are suffering.
Justice, good morning. Lisa Noel, good morning, ma'am. Good morning. Ananda, of course, I try to look at everybody as much as I possibly can. That's right, we tired, but we going. Susan, good morning. Right Church, wrong pew, good morning, good morning. Melanie, good morning. Man, when I tell y'all, I can't wait to be able to have a big party and just meet and see everybody, guys. Just can't wait for that. Purple Rain Hearts. Yep, I got the cup. Alicia, good morning. Can't hurt it. Good morning. Dude, good morning. Good morning, y'all. Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for More Like It or Not, y'all.
All right. So hard segues, but I think this is probably the best way to actually bring us out of that tragic news. This is a TikToker who absolutely captures what the media does when it comes to these white boys who are out here killing us. Because a couple of things, Rebecca, before we play it, you were talking about how, like, we don't even know, we haven't gotten this guy's name yet. We're not getting any information on this guy. But even when we got that information on the killer from last week, how all of these media outlets went above and beyond in order to paint him as a decent human being who maybe did a bad thing. And so this is check out this TikTok video. And before we play it, this is how tragic America is. He published this about a good 2 hours before everybody found out about the mass shooting in Colorado. So look at how prescient he is.
A white man did a bad thing. Bad thing happened. Local authorities suspect man. A white man did a bad thing. Moments before bad thing, man took his dog to a local dog park. A white man did a bad thing. Friends and neighbors close to man who did bad thing say he was a regular churchgoer and loved Jesus real hard. I feel like you're not trying because you're not even saying the word white. A white man did a bad thing. People online are debating the badness of the thing that was done. Here is a collection of tweets from both sides about that.
Right there.
A white man did a bad thing.
Just say it.
Here is an adorable collage of baby photos of man who did bad thing.
Facts.
That's Rebecca.
Facts.
It's literally on the money, and I say that because I've been watching so many news outlets, different ones too. The mainstream media, then us, the independent media, then these people on social media who believe that they are experts on these things. I've just been watching everybody, and a lot of the white people on both sides of it refuse to say the white man did a bad thing. What they're saying is, it doesn't matter why we're bringing race into it. 10 people died. It is very important that 10 people died. It is very, like, you think that we don't, like, just looking at those bodies and it doesn't affect us because we're black. No, we want you guys to stop coddling these white folks in the media. Stop protecting them. Stop skipping over the true story when it is a white man that did a bad thing. Stop going to things like, and I'm talking to, Fox went during the whole thing. Fox went back to Joe Biden tripping and made that a news story while this was underway. So make me, help me to understand how we can't make this, about race. What we're saying is stop coddling these white men, because what they're doing when you coddle them is knowing that they're going to go out, do it again, and then be protected in some way, shape, or form in the media when they go to jail by the police officers that subdue them. This is what we're going to get. So this is why we say it is about race, because, you're always going to protect these white folks to allow them to keep doing what they're doing. And in this year alone, we've had the terrorist attack on at the Capitol. Yeah. We've had the young man go kill 8 people, the white boy go kill 8 people. And then we had yesterday's attack, 10 people. We got bodies everywhere. The blood is on y'all hands, mainstream media, and folks who do not want to call a thing a thing. White man did a bad thing.
James, because what you said, I saw that clip of both Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. They briefly mentioned the mass shooting, and then they went to Joe Biden falling up the stairs, right?
Of course they
And
did.
then if you leave it to local media and some of these online media outlets, these newspapers, the people who think they're doing journalism, they literally will shift into the passive voice in order to never implicate the fact that there was another white man who has done a horrific thing. And if you don't think it's about race, look at the mass shootings in this country. Look at the mass shooting. The common denominator is white men. See, let me tell you something. They will vilify the entire black community if one black person goes out and does a bad thing, right? Everybody black has to be held accountable for one black person that goes out and does a bad thing. We have probably 30 mass shootings in my lifetime, probably more, that have been committed by white men with AR-15s, and they don't want to talk about the racial component, and they certainly don't want to talk about the common denominator of the gun of choice. But they don't want to say it. A white man did another bad thing, and here we are with more bodies on the ground. More bodies. And matter of fact, that last thing, James, I'll get you get in there, but we haven't even had a chance to bury the people from Atlanta.
At all. At all. And it's just like that narrative of the media. Poor white boy. He went through this and that. He had a happy home. His family doesn't know why they did it. It was a black person. Black boy, he didn't have a mama or a daddy at home. He was just trying to get a couple of dollars, and, he just shouldn't have did it. Trying to find his way. The narrative it's all in the narrative. That's why I respect the local Atlanta news, Channel 2, because I know Jovita Moore, she'll get up there in a minute. The white man,
she's a legend. Yeah,
did a bad thing.
This and did this. He did a bad thing. Yeah. But you can really tell a difference though, because when she's not on there versus some of her other people, total difference. The narrative has to change in this country. Yes. It has to change.
It has to change because when you're right, James. When Jovita Moore, who's a legend, we know when she gets on there, they ain't gonna tell her nothing because she has seniority. She knows the stuff. She will speak on behalf of everyone. If you put the little girl that's been doing it on the streets all day, and she's black, and you tell her to cover for Jovita Moore in that area, if she even mentions it different than what the her writers have put down for her, what her producers are telling her to say, she's probably gonna be out of there. So that's the challenge that they have as black people who are new in media, or who already know that they don't have the seniority or the voice to really do what they need to do. So come on to independent media, y'all. But
right.
Honestly, it's just like the narrative. You're right. You have, if they're talking about a black person, and we just heard of the black family massacre, right? Of the stimulus check. As soon as they started talking about that, it was black men in low income community. It was black men in community that didn't have, that lacked. It was black men who just came out of jail, already had a history of violence. It was that's what it was, right? As soon as it's the white man, it is man who was an avid churchgoer, man who community says loved his puppies, man and black man.
Yes.
This is why we say what we say. Stop coddling, because these white boys are watching they're watching every day. They're watching every single day. They're watching how the media talks about them, and they believe that they're being protected, and they believe that it's their right to go out and shoot people up and claim mental health issues. Yep. You know what I mean? That's the first thing they know how they're going to be protected. It's disgusting.
Because they will never allow these incidents to be a reflection of the problem of whiteness in this country.
Never.
As opposed to how Shaniqua could go and use a stimulus check to go to Miami Beach, and maybe she gets in a fight, right? And that video goes viral. They're going to use that as an indictment against the moral integrity of all black people in this country. But when these white boys go out here with these AR-15s and gun down children, gun down club goers, gun down church goers, gun down people going to the grocery store, gun down people in a movie theater, it is never allowed to be a reflection on the problem of whiteness, but everything from what we buy to what we wear to how we dance. They are more upset about wet ass P word than they are about these white boys out here gunning us down with their AR-15s. There is a problem of race in this country, and it is a problem of whiteness and the fact that y'all don't want to address it. And we are out here dying because of it.
And the NRA, literally, like you said, will change the narrative because for some odd reason, they believe that the NRA, when anything happens, like a massacre, the NRA comes out and speaks up because for some reason people seem to lose their words. The gun owners, they seem to lose their words and they have to go and wait for the NRA to speak up for them so they can retweet and they can say that that's their voice. And the NRA usually says to hell with whoever white boy left his carnage in the street. Like who cares what automatic he used? My automatic is safe to me and I'm safe with my automatic. So gun control is ridiculous. Yet there's daily, monthly, too many times that we haven't even been able to mourn people that we don't know, but mourn these people who are just being shot down for going to the store. Like, and they don't care. And it definitely just, I don't care what anyone says. If we don't look at what's happening, if we don't look at what has happened. To now. And I'm talking about not yesterday, not the day before, not in January. I'm talking about all the way down to Sandy Hook and before.
Yeah.
We don't look at these things and don't say gun control is necessary. I don't know if I even want to go outside ever again. I don't know. Like, it's a pandemic one day. It's the protest and us having to fight for our lives the next. And now I don't even know if I can go anywhere in my predominantly white town to do anything without being afraid that I'm not going to make it out.
Yeah. And again, I'm thinking back to us going to the bookstore yesterday. And they just, dude just casually took the gun out and just put it in his backpack. And I'm like, I feel like I need to be on high alert.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I don't feel bad about the fact that I need to be on high alert. Because if you look at the data, facts don't care about your feelings, Ben Shapiro. If you look at the data, a white man with a gun is the greatest threat to human life in this country. And so I should damn near call the police, even though they'll probably come and shoot me and not him, every time I see a white person with the gun, because there's a probability that person is getting ready to commit an act of mass shooting and an act of domestic terrorism. And that is that is a problem of America. I don't know where y'all want to go after this, Rebecca.
I want to just call out people who are watching, like gun control. I know I've been preaching that for a minute, and I don't say it because I think I'm trying to take away y'all guns. It's not about that. We need more restrictions. We need more laws. If we're not going to abolish them, because in my mind, we should take them all away. There are countries that have done that, and you don't see them talking about mass murders. You don't. But here we are. I think that at the end of the day, at least let's do gun control. Let's do gun restrictions. People shouldn't be allowed to go out, easily purchase a gun in one day, and go out and do their duties. Or Colorado literally was just saying, hey, the people want the people want gun restrictions. And they're like, hell nah, we're not letting local people do gun restrictions. We're going to ban that. And then a few days later, what happens?
This happens. And then you got people on our side of the equation who are increasingly, when I say our side of the equation, I'm talking about people who are on the left and some who are revolutionary or radical or whatever. And the idea is that we should not support gun control because we're going to need the guns for the revolution. Okay, folks, let me tell you, this fight that we got to win, we ain't got enough guns to win it with. And if we ever got enough guns, they got tanks. When I say they, I ain't just talking about right-wing conservatives who have a hobby of tanks in their backyard. I'm talking about the government, right? And if we get tanks, well, they got the Air Force. We managed to get some planes, they got nukes. we should not predicate how we protect the lives of humanity right now based on the coming revolution when we can't even win that with guns anyway. And so that's just my 2 cents for anybody who's out there thinking we cannot simply allow it's bad enough that I got to be afraid for my kids to go out of the house because of police. I absolutely got to be afraid for my kids to leave the house and go to schools. Because the only reason we haven't had mass shootings at school this year is because of the damn pandemic.
Yeah.
They just wait. Yep. And I guess these white boys just said, man, I couldn't get to a school, so let me go to a grocery store.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? You said something very important right there, Ben. The only reason that there hasn't been any school mass shootings is because of the pandemic. Kids haven't been allowed to go to school. Schools have been shut down. The pandemic had a moment where we weren't worrying about the mass shootings. Yeah. As soon as they started to open up these streets, as soon as they started to let people out, open up the stores fully again and talk and states saying they're going to open up 100%, these mass shooters are like, say no more. We have targets. We can just go into crowded places, shoot up people and call it a day. It's like they already had this planned. They couldn't wait for people to be out. And it's so sad. You know, the numbers are possibly going down in some areas for the pandemic, but we're still claiming bodies from white terrorists.
And that's what somebody said. Pandemics numbers are going down, mass shootings are going up. Why the frick does it have to be like that?
And let me tell you what,
y'all in the house good for this long. God damn.
They couldn't get their lives together. I guess they're miserable. I don't care what they are. Like you, all this time they have been waiting, itching to get out here and hurt people. Mm-hmm. So it's like most of us when we think about getting out of the pandemic, I'm thinking about hitting up a couple of spots, getting some hookah, getting some, you know what I mean? I'm thinking about some brunches. I'm thinking about just going to see beautiful people. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about doing those kind of things.
Right.
They sitting around fantasizing about getting out here and killing us.
Yeah.
They couldn't even wait for it. Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna be joined by Chuck Modiano, and we're going to discuss not only what's happening with these mass shootings, particularly what's going on in Atlanta and the Asian American protests across the country in solidarity for what happened in Atlanta, but we also want to talk about some of the protests that's happening in Haiti. More like it or not, after this. James, take it away.
Shout out to everybody that's taking us in, joining us. Make sure that you are hitting that like button now, wherever you're streaming from, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. Make sure that you hit that like button, y'all. Comment, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff, y'all. Like it or not, it's going down.
Same thing every time. Got me some Mauritian, man, like it's Christmas. I be on your wish list, know you wanna kiss this. Summertime, don't lie. If you're thirsty, it's okay. I hear it every day. Boys line up around the corner. Wait for my lemonade.
At least you're right. Chuck Dixon. Like it or not, is not responsible for any injuries that you may incur while you're swelling in your living room. So please, be careful and don't hurt yourself. Like it or not. Kimberly Frazier, good morning, good morning.
Some Mauritian, man, like it's Christmas. I be on your wish list, know you wanna kiss this. Summertime, don't lie. If you're thirsty, it's okay. I hear it every day. Boys line up around the corner. Wait.
Olivia Bean, don't worry, we only got a few more minutes of this song. You can go get your coffee in, okay?
Make the boys say, hey, that's my lemonade. Make the boys say, hey, that's my lemonade. Make the boys say, hey, that's my Got me some Mauritian, man, like it's Christmas. I be on your wish list, know you wanna kiss.
Ron Smith Smith, good morning, sir. Good morning. The happy breakup song. I'm gonna have to see which one that is. Savage Sweetheart, good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, coming back to the screen. Dixon and Dixon, y'all.
Welcome back to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. Joining us now is friend of the show, Chuck Modiano. And he was a justice journalist and sports writer for Deadspin. He recently been reporting extensively on the hashtag Stop Asian Hate protest, as well as the hashtag Free Haiti protest. Chuck, thank you so much for joining us again, man. How are you on this morning, all things considered?
Hey, great to be here. If you don't care about how people feel, because you're going to tell the truth, I love it. I love it.
Absolutely, man. That's what that's what we have to do, man. We were talking about, obviously, the breaking news this morning, 10 people dead in Boulder, Colorado. And then we were just thinking about the fact that most of the families here in Atlanta have not even had a chance to bury their dead from less than a week ago, the mass shooting here, which sparked protests across the country in solidarity with Asian Americans on the country. Tell us about what.
Sure. Well, a number of protests Saturday. One was on Wednesday in D.C. Solidarity against white supremacy. And that was organized by the Total Liberation Collective. And I think it's key is that solidarity against white supremacy. In D.C., it's been about solidarity. The Georgia protests have never ended. And I always lead with labels. So that is still happening. What we saw on Wednesday night is the community coming together. And there were, I believe, 3 demands. One was to end the Asian liaison unit as far as police. That's part of the defund MPD. And then it was teaching about Asian American violence in schools, teaching Black history in schools, and trying to unite against not just hate, but that the police who will take someone unscathed, unscratched, to safety while there are 8 victims.
Yeah, we have some footage actually of yours that you used at a protest, that you captured rather at a protest. I want us to take a look at that real quick. Let's run that footage.
Fuck white supremacy! Fuck white supremacy! Fuck white supremacy! Fuck white supremacy!
We're out here because people who look like me are being killed. People who also share our siblings, our brown, black, indigenous siblings are also being killed.
We're angry at the excuses made for a white supremacist who murdered our siblings and the inability of this country to decide if that slaughter of 6 Asian women was racially motivated.
Arrested a white supremacist who killed 8 people last night without so much as a scratch. And in the same breath, they murder Brianna, Tamir, George, Dion, and Karan for nothing.
Justice for Karan!
Justice for Karan!
For too long, we've been depending on police to protect us, and they're not doing their job, so we gotta protect ourselves.
Fuck the cops, fuck MPD, fuck this bullshit Asian liaison unit.
2021 is a direct result of the anti-Asian and anti-Chinese and anti-Vietnamese and anti-Korean and xenophobic in general, writ large, rhetoric that has been spewed by the last administration and does not seem to be stopped by the current administration.
On the surface, Biden says that he condemns anti-Asian hate, but his policies abroad...
We pay tax dollars that kill people abroad, our people that look just like me.
Racism and hate crimes that Asian Americans experience don't happen in a vacuum. They're directly linked to U.S. imperialism, and that's something that we need to name.
We demand the full decriminalization of sex work.
This collective power is what we need to keep this energy going. We cannot keep letting white supremacy be a wall to everything we can achieve towards liberation.
Chuck, I want to ask you about that specifically. I especially at the very beginning of the clip, one of the things the gentleman said was that 6 of the 8 people killed were Asian women, and we're having a debate in this country over whether or not it was race-based. Talk about that.
I mean, what we're talking about is a long history of mass white denial, that we're always looking for a reason why something isn't racist. Oh, it's almost a disease. What could it possibly be besides racism? And when that happens in the worst scenario, when there are dead bodies, when there are grieving people, then I believe the person I interviewed really communicated the insult, the hurt that brings. Why do you have to prove the most obvious? But that is America, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. Why do we have to prove the most obvious? Rebecca, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was interesting to me when I saw that the particular video, it almost looks like just a difference, right? We have Asian Americans who are out there protesting. And what one of them said was that, hey, police officers don't even care about us, right? Now we're having that conversation, but with a different group of people and a different demographic. So it's interesting to see and hear that they too are having these issues. And I wonder now that they're speaking up on it. And not to say that, when Black folks say it, they aren't heard, but that's true. When Black folks say it, we've been screaming it for years. But I wonder if, since now this conversation is being had by Asian Americans, is that going to be something that heightens the us talking about, not abolishing the police, but what is it? What's the term? It's like 10,000 terms. Defunding the police. But yes, here we are with it. And I wonder, is that going to be a thing? Or, are we going to start, white supremacy when it comes against it's, what it is? It's white folks against everybody. That's what it is here in America. It is white folks against everyone. But I wanted you to speak more to that young man talking about, how they don't even feel protected by police.
Well, I hope the outcome is what you just said, that there will be unity against police. I do want to say I did interview not just new people, but people who've actually have been out there for the last 10 months as well. So there has probably been a little more solidarity that has been visible to the outside in D.C. D.C. has been a Black-led multiracial protest from the start, going back to George Floyd. And here you are seeing some commonality. But the woman who spoke also did an interview about when she spoke to her mother. And her mother said, but we need police to keep us safe. And she said, no, we don't need police to keep us safe. They don't keep us safe. And she talked about a sort of generational tug and pull that I think is going on across racial lines everywhere.
And that's the thing. It is trying to help people to understand that nuance right there, because there's a generation of people who look at the police. You know what? I could help simplify this. It's a generation of people who've actually grown up and watched nonstop cop propaganda on television all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like love everybody in my family, but all the elders in my family sitting there watching NCIS, sitting there CIS, sitting there watching all these shows that are cop based that always sow these narratives that cops come into our community to protect us. But in this instance, the younger generation is trying to communicate to them, hey, I need you to understand the cops have not been protecting us. The cops have been complicit with this system in one way or the other. And in this very specific case, they're complicit with this white supremacist violence in that they're trying to coddle it and protect it and cover for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why the demand number one was to get rid of the Asian liaison unit in Washington, D.C. that is increased their control in D.C. and other Asian American communities after this happened. So you have this almost inverse reaction than what the people want. So, that's really important. That's an important point you make.
Let's shift gears, Rebecca.
Yeah, let's take it to another protest that's happening in D.C. that you've been covering, Chuck.
I do want to add one thing. Can I add one piece here?
Yes.
That what I think was really distinctive about this particular protest than we hear in the mainstream. We've heard the narrative, which is true, that Trump's rhetoric, Trump saying Kung flu and all other anti-Chinese rhetoric has created this toxic environment that is getting Asians hurt. That is all true. Yes. But what we also heard was about the foreign policies and imperialism that are going on, not just in Trump administration.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's important that that's happening in both administrations. It's not just something that happened within the Trump administration. And these communities are not afraid to call Biden out on that.
Yeah.
And one of those communities that you've been covering once again is Haiti, the Haitian community, which you've been covering their protests. And I want us to take a look at some of the footage that you got from those Haitian protests that are happening in DC.
There are massive demonstrations in Haiti, and because those demonstrations, Haiti or any place else, are a stand against U.S. imperialism, against Western imperialism, they don't report it. They don't really want us to know that what they're doing is facilitating something that's against adverse to the will of the people.
So in Haiti right now, there is an extremely unpopular and wildly corrupt president whose term expired on February 7th, 2021, and who is remaining past his term because he has support from the United States government, who basically is propping him up there, and also other groups of states and organizations, including the Organization of American States, in front of whose building we're standing right now.
They are leaving Haiti because U.S. policies have been depleting the nation. Because U.S. policies keeping the people in bondage. And we want freedom, and we want it now.
What people are so angry and upset about is that this dictator is basically selling all the assets of Haiti to the highest bidder so he can personally profit from it.
That Biden is setting up the most violent administration in Haiti that is killing people on the street.
Murders and deaths that are happening. So there's a dire, grave situation happening in Haiti, but it is being backed by the U.S. And ironically, this is the same country that is going around pushing for voters' rights. And they're not acknowledging the rights of Haitian voters.
Yes. The very thing that President Biden was complaining about Donald Trump and not following the Constitution and leaving as the Constitution prescribed is what he himself is guilty of supporting inside of Haiti. And for that reason is why we're here demonstrating today. Making sure and think that we're so hoodwinked that the people aren't paying attention to what's going on. So we're out here to make sure they know that we're paying attention and that we support the people of Haiti and that we are for the United States and the so-called UN peacekeeping troops to get the hell out of Haiti. Rain or shine. Rain or shine.
That's powerful.
That's a very powerful protest, and I love how again they talked about imperialism. They talked about the dictatorship that Jovenel Moïse is out there doing in Haiti, because it's important that they're out there to protest that and make sure that they know that everyone else knows that we know that U.S. is definitely involved in the backing of this dictatorship. Yeah. So tell me, when you went out there, Chuck, what was the sense that you got out there? Because it's very interesting. A lot of people don't know there are Haitians in D.C. and we have solidarity with other Black people and people in D.C. So can you talk about that?
Sure. Well, let me start with the protest was organized by Black Alliance for Peace, who've been in D.C. for a long time, particularly when you're talking about imperialism and anti-war. So if people want to get down to the nitty-gritty of facts, definitely check them out. So what's really interesting to me is that there was no mainstream media there. There was no Washington Post. There was nobody. And, that's where I try to go out and get the real story. And I'm learning as we're moving forward. But what's so interesting to me is what one gentleman mentioned is the very same thing that we were talking about Trump, this rogue dictator who won't leave office according to the Constitution. Jovenel Moïse is doing the very same thing, and the U.S. is backing him, and Joe Biden is backing him. So are we against dictators not leaving, or are we for it? So it's very similar to the hypocrisy of the kids in cages. Do we care about it during Trump? Or do we care about it during Biden? What are the principles we have? So I think we have to start there and remove all hypocrisy, because Black Alliance for Police exposed that.
And go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say that hypocrisy is so transparent. Like if it was evil during Donald Trump's administration, it's evil right now. Go ahead, Rebecca.
No, that's exactly what it is. We have Joe Biden, who in 2019, before he took office, before he even won, he ran on the campaign of, okay, hey, we need to definitely elevate Haiti. Haiti has been in trouble. Haiti has been in turmoil when it comes to their government, and it's the people that need to be heard. He tweeted out on Twitter that he said if he becomes president, he will start listening to the people, find out how he can get them assistance. So Haiti was really betting on Joe Biden becoming president, only for him, when he did get in office, to back Jovenel Moïse to stick in office against the people's wishes there.
Right.
So they went out and made sure when they're protesting, because now they got social media, now they have voices. They made sure that they held up that tweet of Joe Biden saying that he wanted to help Haiti back in 2019. And when he becomes president, he will assist them. So they have been out there and making sure that they too know that Joe Biden and Donald Trump, to them, are the same. He is not a leader to be compared to Dessalines or former good leaders that were in Haiti. He is not that. He would never be that. And that's when they came to figure out, and that's why they're in the streets, and they're saying, we don't need U.S. assistance if it's going to look like this.
Brother Chuck, I want you to get I was going to actually get the last word.
No, you got it. You got it. Go ahead.
No, I actually want. That's what I was going to say. I want you to get a couple more words in here, and then then tell the people how they can support your work.
Well, we heard Rebecca's point, over and over about that hypocrisy. So when we were hearing there's not a big difference between the two, that's a very global, imperialistic commentary. So we heard that over and over, and we have to look at that. What was interesting to me is that when I was covering Trump rallies from the first day of the protest against Trump, and on the 9th day of Trump's presidency, there were massive protests against his immigration policy, against his Muslim ban. Anyone who wants to know the details, and I'm at Chuck Mo D1 on Twitter, and really appreciate you giving the platform to talk about imperialism, because we know that's not popular in media.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's not popular. Go ahead, Becca.
No, and thank you so much, Chuck. I really wanted to thank you for that, because the information is missing in me.
Shot to get up on my leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the 7. My girl said I'm a dog, but all dogs go to heaven. Thank the Lord when I wake. I've been sleeping like a baby, cause I know my paper straight. Oh, I got it. Another day to the grave. I get it cause I got to. I got kids, I need a babe. Thank the Lord when I wake. I've been sleeping like a baby, cause I know my paper straight. Another day to the grave. I get it cause I got to. I got kids, I need to pay.
Suddenly a Bubba.
Getting paid. I've been eating good. I've been putting on some weight.
I guess the stream actually caught itself up, y'all. So now it should be working correctly.
This is like a warning shot to get up out my way. This is like a warning shot to get up out my lane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the 7. My girl said I'm a dog.
Picture the moves. What's going on, y'all? Mic check. It is okay.
Boy, you had me from the start.
Yeah, cause they said it jumped straight
by
to
the
me.
way you stand, the way you rolled up on me. Yeah. Man, I felt your energy. Wasn't used to being loved and treated differently, yeah. But something went wrong, the signals got crossed, and now we're on completely different pages. Let's go where we were, where no one gets hurt. Baby, keep it right there, don't you stress.
William Moore, if I'm not mistaken, his Twitter was Chuck Modi1. Chuck Modi1. If you missed that, the follow from what the follow information. Chuck Modi1.
Baby, don't you? Baby, don't
Hannah Hart, good morning.
Baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you?
Like it or not,
baby,
remix,
don't you? Baby, don't
I like
you?
that. I just remixed Like It or Not real quick, y'all. Like just like that. I scratched it.
Always up and down and back and forth in merry-go-round. I just wanna get it right. But when you go left, I'm stuck here feeling left behind. Cause something went wrong, the signals got crossed, and now we're going different directions.
Nicole, Nikki, good morning.
Let's go where we were.
Damn wall, I know, right? I think we gotta fix that.
it right there. Don't you stress the flow. You're trying to pick the pace up. We should take it slow. Baby, keep your focus. Don't you make me change my mind. If you love me, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you. Baby,
Mark
don't
S,
you.
good morning.
Baby, don't you switch
Tiff
up the
Dan, you're definitely welcome.
Baby, don't you.
Sarah, good
Baby,
morning.
don't you. Baby, don't you switch up the vibe on the table. If you love me just like you say you do, don't kill the good vibes. If you kill them, you're gonna kill us too. Baby, keep it right there. Don't you stress the flow. You're trying to pick the pace up. We should take it slow.
Hudson, shout out to Jamaica in the building. Shout out to Hudson.
If you love
The
me,
team is probably one of my favorite
don't you
ones.
switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you? Baby, don't you?
Yeah,
Baby, don't
YouTube was
you
switching
switch
up the vibe.
Baby, don't you? Baby, don't you? Baby, don't you switch up the vibe?
Terrible.
He's a man, he's taking it to the streets, just doing what he's able.
Hey, Artie, Bobby Smurder's already free, buddy. You're kind of late there.
Food on the table, it's cold outside.
Yeah, right. Bobby Smurder's already free, buddy. That's like 2 or 3 weeks old. He's out already. He's chilling. Free me and Rebecca. Free Azor, free Bubba. Free Haiti. How about that? Oh, Bobby Smurder, he got enough money. Free us. Give us
my
free.
vicinity. The phone rings, a voice says it's ready for delivery. The package, the message clear my head like antihistamines. Time to do my job. Consider me the man of mystery, the secret agent. And you're the
Be
boss.
quiet. I was going to talk about Bobby Smurder.
She says it's so close she
Could have
could
stayed in there, honestly.
Look in her eyes, I was unsurprised. Ain't nothing new. Already been through this 100 times. She can't settle. I'm strong enough to smash metal, so I slide in the driver's seat and mash the gas pedal. Blast off across the asphalt like NASA shuttle. Cars in front of me, I pass a couple. Then check the rear view to see who's creeping behind me. Eyes in all directions, I'm never stepping blindly.
He's a man, and he's taking it to the streets, just doing what he's able. In the game, to provide for his family and put food on the table. It's cold outside, but the package is hot. It's gotta make the pickup without no hiccup. They smooth and make it back to the spot.
Yo, I'm never rushing, on time every time, no discussion. Moon shines down like it knows something. I hope it doesn't. I'm in the pickup spot that got the best product. Package in the back of the restaurant.
Dwayne, you should have brought it back in then, Dwayne.
He approached me slowly, no words needed. Only get
Man, stay
nine
hitting
because the
them
homie knows me. My cash is counted perfect, ready for the handoff.
Really?
It go down slick as a magic trick. Call me Gandalf. Now I'm back on the street,
Yeah, you
bag
got-
full
you
of
gotta
heat
say.
in the passenger seat, and I'm gnashing my teeth. I feel the hunger too,
Literally
but
like
I
a
stay
second.
loyal. Gotta get the package back to the boss before her blood boil. It's covered in foil, wrapped up tight. The only thing to satisfy her appetite, she gotta have.
All right,
it
ladies and
My
gentlemen,
love
we
for
are
her is
coming
crazy.
back to
I
more
make it
like
back
that. Now I
safely.
hope y'all
And watch
are
your
ready.
face light up because it's that tasty.
Welcome back, folks, to Like It or Not. It appears like James, you got the magic touch, man. Looks like we've come back and we're back in sync. Think about it is what's wild is like this happened. Chuck, if you're still watching, the exact same tech issue happened I think the Fed's watching you, man. So Chuck, you might want to check your internet and make sure that they haven't attached themselves to you. But anyway, I digress. Welcome back to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. I want to start with a clip from a show that's getting ready to come out on CBS. When I saw it, I was, actually, don't let me saddle it with my own feelings about it. I want us to just, no, I don't think, Rebecca, I don't think you've seen it. And many of you in the audience may not have seen it. It's from an upcoming show called The United States of Al. Take a look at it.
There he is. Al, over here! Oh. want to see everything. Washington, D.C., Las Vegas. And what's the name of that place that sells peanut butter and brings it to you on a forklift?
Costco. The whole time I served in Afghanistan, Al was my interpreter.
Hey, welcome! Let me get you a beer.
Dad,
No alcohol.
Oh, I'm sorry.
no. Your son should be sorry for talking to you with that tone of voice.
I like him.
Do you know that your Uncle Al is your godfather?
Which some might say is even more important than an actual father.
No one says that.
How could you not tell me you were having marriage problems? I could have fixed it.
From Afghanistan?
It's not the moon. We have Wi-Fi.
I appreciate how much you want to help, but he couldn't make it work.
Do you think you tried hard enough?
He's the one who didn't try hard enough.
He was probably exhausted from war. There was a lot of walking.
Thank you for keeping my brother safe.
As your godfather, I will protect you for the rest of my life.
Will you be my godfather too?
Get your own.
Thank you for welcoming me into your home.
Yo, what's happening?
You'll get used to it.
All right. So, there's obviously backlash around this. In a series of tweets over the weekend, executive producer Reza Aslan urged critics to speak from facts and not from feelings and wait until they see the full show before forming an opinion. Did it strike anyone the same way it did me? Because if you had substituted him with a black person and the narrative was, whatever, I would have been like, hell no, I don't want to see this. And it's just another white savior. This is like, I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. What did y'all think about it?
Somebody said it best in the chat room. It's Perfect Strangers. I don't know if y'all might be too young to remember that show.
Valky.
Y'all might be too young.
Rebecca, basically. Perfect Strangers.
I might just say me.
Rebecca. James, you and me about the same age. Rebecca has no idea about Perfect Strangers.
Don't know what you're talking about, but you can educate me.
But Perfect Strangers, like I understand some of my favorite content from the 80s absolutely would not make it in 2021. They play down. I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way, not only because of the racial dynamics, but also because like it's like another movie where they're glamorizing America's war machine another way. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's from Afghanistan. Oh, it was really tough war. He had to do a lot of walking, and I'm like, come on, folks.
You're right. Sorry for cutting you off. Man.
No, go for it.
You just brought up. So I did see this commercial, right? I mean, this teaser for this show. And I'm like, I was staring at it very uncomfortably because the only part that I saw was when he kissed him on both sides of the cheek, which we do in my culture too. And he was like, what is he doing? And then he looks back and says, you'll get used to it. And I'm looking like, at first I thought it was because I'm like, okay, is this a gay couple that they're showing? One is, from the Middle East and one is from, America. And I didn't understand.
They weren't even that level. Yeah.
And it wasn't even that. So, but you brought up a good point. They are bringing up this whole war thing and they're trying to glamorize it, but they're also trying to make it look like you said, white folks are white saviors and things like that, especially these white men, child. But they trying to make it seem like this man came over here in support of this white man, but then it's like, and that white man probably killed off your cousins and brothers and sisters all during that war. But she came over here and said, I was his translator. Like, that's the sick part to me. How they're trying to make this like you said, glamorize it, but then it's like act like people from Afghanistan or any other area that America came in and killed them folks and for no reason. They're trying to act like those people really give a damn about white folks. They
like they're in love. Like, oh, we're so grateful, America, that you came over here.
They probably don't care about y'all. And that's not to say for those who were forced to go off to war or whatever, thank you for serving. But y'all know what we're talking about. You guys know what you saw. You guys know and understand what we say when we say this. So when I do see people and then this is the same country that brings out these kind of shows. Are you thinking this is going to bring togetherness? Because you guys have to understand, a lot of people that look like you, the white folks, you guys are the ones that call them terrorists. So if we can switch the narrative to make it what it really is, make the white man the terrorist, or make let's start doing those kind of shows.
Yes, we need a revolution in television. Like, we need to get nothing else. If we don't get the actual revolution, we gotta get a revolution. Because honestly, what about it? Like let's have some narratives of the real threats in this country, right? Yeah. I'm so tired of propaganda. I'm so tired of all of these shows where the police are the hero. Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Law and Order, Special Victims Unit. Like, can we actually put out some content that is not paid and funded by the military industrial complex in this country? Because if you look at this show, the United States of Al, not only is it insulting in my sense of the tokenization of that Afghani man, like the role that he's playing rather, but it is also like clearly trying to make everybody kind of have laughing and thoughts of the war that's still going on. The war is like, how old is the Afghani war? It was 2001, and then 2003 we went into Iraq. So like the war in Afghanistan is old enough to have served a couple of years in the military itself. Like, the war is 2001 we invaded Afghanistan, right? 2003, the war in Iraq is over 18 years old. And now I guess we've gotten far enough away from what happened for us to make laughing, situational sitcoms.
It's not,
around
just
it.
looking at looking at it next to you is bothering me. And you know what's so crazy? Like you said, Ben, we watched a lot of this stuff, and we have shows ourselves that are like that we love, that have these kind of
problematic tropes in them.
They're problematic.
Yeah,
right? They are.
Yeah.
And I brought up another one, which I will not bring, but I say this, when you have an opportunity another opportunity in 2021, this is what I say. It's 2021. Those things in the past, it comes with understanding, right? That, hey, we ain't know better, right? It's true. Sometimes we really just don't know better. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they've done. Now, honey, it's till 2021. Ain't no way that you don't know, because it's all over the place. It's in social media. It's an argument. We have been talking about these things. You can't turn around without seeing it in some magazine, or you can't miss it, right? The racial thing. You cannot miss you cannot be unsensitive to what's happening right now. So when you do make a work of art in any form, please be, mindful of how you're doing this and what it's looking like, because it's going to hurt somebody. And especially for me, when it's coming from white folks, you have no place to keep doing this. And it's going to get canceled. It's going to get canceled. This is not that time.
That show ain't going to last. This show ain't going to last probably two episodes.
We recall, like, in The Simpsons, they had the one character that was supposed to be Middle Eastern and things like that. It was one of those shows, and everybody was okay with it at that time. But now that we knew it was problematic, we can kiki about it, but say, hey, if you're going to bring out The Simpsons again, cut the shits.
Right.
We're not on that.
Right. In other words, don't use the excuse that we used to do it as an excuse to keep doing it now.
Exactly.
Right? Here's the thing with Reza Aslan. He's like one of the executive producers of it. He says that the story is not about a white savior complex. It's actually about the Afghan, the Afghani man in there who is the savior of this white family. But listen, no. Why y'all saving this white family that look like they're doing pretty good? They look like they're doing just fine, right? How is his family doing over in Afghanistan? If we really want a savior story about something, how about he saves his family from that that soldier who was there? Like, instead of serving as his, well, anyway, let me stop there, because
how about he
the way that was going to go, that was going to go the wrong way.
Yeah. How about he apologized on the show, and say, hey, you know what? I feel like I do have mental issues, and I do have traumatic things happening with me because of what I saw and what I was a part of. And yes, how about that? How about they show him not being so kind to this white family, but showing his outrage?
How about stop making, like, they got the tallest, sexiest looking white dude they could possibly, he's a good-hearted guy, and he's going to be just like, he's so kind, he's on the rocks with his wife, and he's a good father. How did he carry himself in Afghanistan? I know that's not what you're going to do on a television show. But really,
America's perception of a white soldier, of a white veteran.
Exactly.
That's
a
what
beautiful
it is.
wife,
Exactly.
a beautiful wife, like a young Karen in the making, and she's over here just saying thank you for.
A young
and then even the sister,
Karen
the sister
in
said
the making.
The sister's like, thank you for protecting my brother. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, just white privilege everywhere.
How
White privilege
many
everywhere.
people did he translate for that he actually ended up getting them killed? How many times did he translate? Well, I don't even know the guy's name in here. I was about to get canceled and called. But how many times did he see? You can't make stories about certain things without real questions coming out. You cannot glamorize our military industrial complex. You can't, not in the year of our Lord 2021. We ain't doing it, right? And the jump off point from this was like the tokenization of this character. I'm sorry, he's playing like a docile role in this, where everybody else, like, you got this alpha male and you got this, these images that are part of America's lexicon, right? I just got to know how they felt that this was going to be able to slide under the radar of people who got bigger questions, not just about the role that he's playing and how he's been tokenized in his role, but absolutely about how y'all are trying to glamorize America's war machine. That's the real questions that come out of stupidness like this. So Reza Aslan imagines himself to be like, I don't know what he thinks he is in terms of political ideology. But at the end of the day, fam, like, there's no way in hell I would be an executive producer of a show like this with a black man in that role.
No.
Period. No way.
And I wouldn't even try to. And listen, I like money. I do.
But I would not put. That's the money I'd have to.
There are things that we got to start saying no to.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing. Here's where the money's gonna come in when you put those particular productions out. Like, it'd be like, hey, this production said they wanted me to do X, Y, and Z. I called them out on it. They told me I was looking crazy. It took me off the scene from it. And here's my story. Listen, start putting them out, because if we don't start calling Hollywood out and in any of these spaces, if we don't start calling them out, then they're gonna keep doing these things. Like, I literally just saw, I don't know if we have that video, but we could play it sometime if we have time at the end of the show. But I literally saw like something that's okay, and it's not in America, but people are still doing blackface. It's
oh yeah,
like this is happening in media, you guys. This is still okay. They're literally painting on blackface and putting hair on and peeling it off after they do their thing.
The reveal.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
This is if we don't call them out, and they've been doing this for 6 years now, and we have social media, and they've been doing this 6 years now. 6 years.
That show's been on for 6 years.
It's like 6 years. Yeah, it's been on for years.
So folks who don't know what she's talking about, there's a game show. It's not American based because it would never.
It's like
I don't think
lip sync. It's like the lip sync show,
right? But what they do is they put people in blackface, and I think I think they're trying to do a thing of changing cultures where you take a white person and they put them in complete blackface, top to bottom. They even give them an afro. And then they do a whole performance and song and dance. I had no idea it's been on for 6 years. Cancel culture ain't real. Cancel culture ain't real because there's no way that would last in 6 years.
Then I wanted to mention a show.
These people,
yeah, they're definitely terrible. Like, those are white people putting on stuff. Now, I wanted to mention a show, Ben, and I love that show too. Lovecraft Country, baby. I love that show. That show is great.
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
But there is and I wanted to put it in the chat, but I didn't want to destroy it for us. You see?
Oh boy, what part did I miss? My woke daughter didn't catch it. What happened?
There is, and I probably will pull that up some other time, but there is a young lady who said, hey, I was so happy. I was on this great show and I wanted to tell you guys about it. I had my own trailer, everything like that. She said they were putting makeup on her face. The young lady is very fair skinned. Very fair skin. And so they were putting makeup on her face, and then she said that she started to, she felt beautiful, had every, just the works on this set. And she said as they started to put her makeup on, she started looking at the colors that they were using. They were using something that was darker than me, and I'm brown. So they were using like something that was darker than me. And they just kept on putting it on her. And she said when she made it to that part of the scene, she realized like she's a whole dark-skinned girl now. And mind you, it was only for her to be in a black and white photo in the background of a scene.
Okay.
they painted the girl black, like a dark-skinned girl. And everybody was having issues with that. The girl even had issues with that. She said she just felt so terrible even getting that part, but she felt like, okay, this is an opportunity for me. But old girl was, and this is why we had to say, you couldn't go find a dark-skinned girl to do a black and white photo. You could, I need to understand why we're still doing that.
The cost of makeup, the cost of that makeup session would have been enough to get an extra.
In the middle of black production. So all media needs to get it right, okay? But all media needs to get it right.
And we ain't even start talking about Tyler Perry's problems, but
we don't even want to go there, but there's so much. There's so much. You know what I mean? But white folk, you first. Get it right. Get it tight. Y'all been owning these spaces for a long time. You know.
Oh, man.
Make sure that you guys are very sensitive to what you guys are putting out there. And
the United States of Al is not going to fly. I'm sorry.
I think, then the United States, like Ben, no, you didn't say the most important part. When you were telling us behind the scenes, you were saying it's the title for me.
Yeah,
the United States of Al is a problem. Yeah. First of all, he ain't even from the United States.
Exactly. I'm just like the United States of Al as a show itself. Like I can't stomach any more American propaganda like that. All right, let's go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by none other than Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. More Like It or Not after this.
I've been waiting all night. Watch you blow a mile. Please don't come over, 'cause you're not sober. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Make sure that like button, share, comment, subscribe wherever you are watching.
If you knew he was coming over, that would be a problem.
Make sure that y'all hit
if
the
our
like
friends
button,
knew undercover love and they would try to solve it, yeah. Me and you, what we do, it stays between me and you, me and you, what we do, it stays between me and you. Hey, please don't touch me like that, 'cause you know I'll read it. Don't make me do this, I feel so foolish. No, breaking rules and that's facts. If you knew you was coming over, that would be a problem. If our friends knew undercover love and they would try to solve it, yeah. You, what we do, it stays between me and you, me and you. What we do, it stays between me and you. And I know that when you come along, I'll be sure. If it's wrong, then tell me that I'm wrong. I don't care. It makes me happy.
This is why I love you.
And if you're happy, then let's be happy. Let's be happy.
Show me if beside you a lie, you a front. You say anything long as you get what you want. Tryna play me like a fool, homie, I am not a clown. It ain't nothing but a game, 'cause all you do is mess around. Now I'm on the verge of a meltdown.
This guy, just like Kendrick.
I should've known when I met her back at Midtown, at Dogwood, when I was going through a rough patch, but it's all good. I even told her about the dark times I had in childhood, when we was driving off of I-10 in Kirkwood. Now all that time
shout out to Rebecca on Midtown Dogwood.
Used to hate when I didn't wanna hang. I noticed that. Used to talking about your ex Jake with your next Jack. Used to messing with them white boys. Now she went black. Wait a minute, guess you went and got yourself a real life. Got yourself some booty shots and live love. You just wanna make a rapper beat like love. You ain't
y'all.
He does up close, baby, you a ghost. You a demon, and you should float. Get out the way,
All right, y'all, get ready. More Like It or Not is coming at you right now.
How you gonna lie when you looking in my
Welcome back to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. Joining us now is Anna Kasparian. She is the host and executive producer of The Young Turks, as well as a member of Weekends with Jacobin Magazine. Anna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ben. I'm really happy to be here.
Always a pleasure. I know it's super early on the West Coast, so I always keep that in mind, and grateful that you guys get up that early to come hang out with us. Listen, there's a couple of news stories that I want to get your take on, but before we do, I know everybody in my audience clearly knows who you are, but tell us about you. And my first question is how did you connect with the Young Turks? What's your origin story with the Young Turks?
So it's funny that you ask because on April 1st, I'll be with TYT for 14 years,
wow.
Which is crazy. Like, time has gone by so quickly. But I actually graduated journalism school and started working for a CBS affiliate in Los Angeles as an associate producer. And it really ended up being the exact opposite of what I thought journalism was supposed to be. And what I really didn't appreciate about it was, I get that journalists aren't supposed to share their opinion, but the best position in that newsroom would be to be an anchor who shows up like 15 minutes before a newscast and literally just reads what news writers have written for them. And it just wasn't really something stimulating enough. And I was approached by a colleague there who told me about this startup called The Young Turks. And they needed like a temporary fill-in as J.R. Jackson was going to go on a 2-week break. And I was like, all right, well, it's just extra money. It's a temporary thing. They needed me to come in at 3 a.m. because they did a morning show at that time that aired in the East Coast and we're in Los Angeles, which was a lot. But I'm like, it's 2 weeks. It's not a big deal. But once I showed up and I saw Cenk Uygur, the CEO and founder of the company, do his thing, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to speak truth to power. I don't think that some of these rules, pertaining to journalism, old school rules really need to apply. And remember, that was during the Bush administration when the media was like terrified to criticize Bush for the awful war crimes he was engaged in. And so I told Cenk after those 2 weeks were up that like, I want to stay. I'm willing to do anything. He's like, well, we need someone for marketing. I had no expertise in marketing, but I took it. And then, worked 2 jobs for a while until Cenk asked me to quit CBS. As TYT was honestly like financially in not a great place, very unstable. But I took that risk. I'm really happy I did it because I got to work with, not just people at TYT, but people like you guys. And I think that this kind of work is just way more important than just regurgitating what people in power have to say.
We're giggling behind the scenes because Rebecca is this is like, Rebecca, go ahead. Never mind. This is your story. This is your testimony.
This too is my testimony, Anna. It's funny though that you say that, coming out of journalism school, working in mainstream media, actually noticing these stories that are being told that you're like, okay, I know they're telling us that journalism have to be unbiased. They can't really have a voice. I definitely can agree with that. But then you get into a space and you see a light and like, hey, I can still be a journalist, just not that type of journalist in mainstream. And I can have a voice. I can give the stories and have a voice. So would you still consider yourself like a journalist? Like, do you consider yourself a journalist, although people in the old school world might see you as just a commentator or an analyst?
Yeah. So, I mean, it really depends on what you see, what your definition of journalism is, right? So I still think of journalists as people who go out there on the field, gather, the evidence, gather the news, and then report it to the people. I think that there are now different buckets of journalism. And for the longest time, columnists, op-ed writers have been considered journalists. So yeah, I mean, I think, and we do more than just like, oh, we're going to read an article and we're just going to talk about it on a show. Exactly. Like there's a lot of research, a lot of fact checking. Like you can't just take an article and believe everything at face value. Like you have to do your own fact checking. And oftentimes when I do that, I find some pretty glaring mistakes. in mainstream media print reporting. So, one of the things, by the way, that's happening right now is the mainstream press is reporting that Representative Cuellar, a pretty right-wing Democrat, he has obtained photos of what some of these child detention centers look like. But all you need to do is scratch the surface a little more. And it's like, actually, these pictures aren't coming from Cuellar specifically. They're coming from Project Veritas. And what Project Veritas did is hand those photos over to Cuellar. So when Cuellar shares it with the press can say it's coming from Cuellar, not from Veritas, which has had some issues in the past, with the credibility of their work. Let's just put it that way.
That is putting it nicely.
But even how you just explained it, right? How you just made a clarification. To me, that is the epitome of what a journalist is. We have to, even if you're going out there, that's what I was taught in my journalism school. But for some reason, when I go into mainstream media and when I was working in mainstream media, they really just want you to sit there, be a robot and regurgitate the news. But we got to go out there and clarify things. That's an investigative reporter. And although it's not packaged the way that everybody liked it in old school ways, we're still doing that in some way, shape, or form. So I still consider you definitely a journalist. And thank you for your work, Anna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And since you mentioned what's happening at the border, here's the other thing that I know you guys experience over there, and I've experienced in my 6 years of doing this, is that there's also lanes for our work, right? If we were consistently conservative, us being black on this program, we'd get all kinds of money, right? But if you get all kinds of checks. But then on the other side, like in these progressive/liberal spaces, if we consistently protect the Democratic establishment, then there's all kinds of opportunities. And it's when you decide to be unbiased, or at least you decide to follow your own truth, and stepping on the toes of everybody occasionally, you get blacklisted in some cases. So talk about that in terms of the work at TYT, because, everyone likes to consider all of us in this space as sellouts, but most of the time you guys are taking it to the Democratic Party because that's what has to happen.
Right. I mean, for us, for me specifically, I'm going to speak for myself, but this is definitely true of what I've experienced at TYT. We don't have loyalty to anyone. Journalists aren't supposed to be loyal to a political party or to particular politicians. The point is, and we're also very honest and clear about our political values. And when you have your political values, when you have your principles guiding you, well, what you'll notice is that everyone hates you, right? The Democrats hate you. Obviously, Republicans hate you, because the way politics works in America is you choose a side, you become very tribalistic about that side, and you protect them no matter what. And so when we do the story about Biden's approach toward migrants at the border, you got to be honest, right? So Biden and his administration is taking this ridiculous, they're trying to straddle the middle on immigration, and you can't do that. On one hand, you had Biden, campaigning on being far more compassionate to migrants. And then as soon as he's in power, once he's in office, you hear his secretary of the Department of Homeland Security essentially saying no, we're deporting everyone. We're turning everyone back except for unaccompanied minors. Well, do you think that that's actually going to appeal? You think you're going to get brownie points from the right wing? Right. No, they have no interest in that. Do you think you're going to get brownie points from the people who got you elected? No, because you campaigned on something that you're now, not actually following through on. So I don't give him any brownie points for, we're going to be compassionate with unaccompanied minors by throwing them into these facilities for far too long, but we're going to deport everyone else. It's just, you got to be honest about what's going on.
Right.
Speaking of being honest, you've mentioned what's going on at the border a couple of times. I actually let's start there, because we have this is a perfect scenario where we have an example of where we need to criticize or critique the administration, but then also we're going to juxtapose something from Fox News where we also have to criticize the right with their hypocrisy. I want us to play first a clip of Jen Psaki, Biden's press secretary, as she encountered an exchange about what's happening at the border. Let's take a look at that clip.
Children who are frightened and crying, overcrowded conditions. Now that the public has seen that, is that not a crisis? And what conditions or situations, what metrics would have to be in place for the administration to call it that?
Well, children presenting at our border who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing prosecution, who are fleeing terrible situations is not a crisis. We feel that it is our responsibility to humanely approach this circumstance and make sure they are treated and put in conditions that are safe. I will say that these photos show what we've long been saying, which is that these Border Patrol facilities are not places made for children. They are not places that we want children to be staying for an extended period of time. Our alternative is to send children back on this treacherous journey. That is not, in our view, the right choice to make. And so our focus now is on solutions and putting in place policies, including expediting processing at the border, opening up additional facilities, something that you've seen developments on over the past several days, and there'll be certainly more on. Restarting our Central American Minors Program, which was stopped in 2017. Thousands of kids should be eligible to apply for that, so they're not making this journey. So our focus is on solutions and implementing them as quickly as possible.
The president said he is open to going to the border at some point. Do you have any sense if during this current...
Okay, Anna, she said a whole lot of words there, but I'm curious, what's your take on how she's trying to position it?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to take a holistic approach and see, everything that the Biden administration is doing simultaneously. I found it fascinating that just yesterday it was announced that Mexico is going to be far more strict and militant on their southern border in order to essentially stop the flow of migrants going to the United States through Mexico's southern border. I doubt that Mexico made that decision on its own. I'm sure that there's some collaboration taking place right now because, look, the fact of the matter is Biden doesn't want to suffer the consequences of how ill-prepared his administration is to deal with what's happening on the southern border. They're talking about opening up new facilities. They're not new facilities. They're actually facilities that were utilized by the Trump administration. The Trump administration, in a very justified way, got a lot of criticism for using some of those facilities because they were inadequate to, keep children in. The children are being kept in these facilities far longer than they should be. And yes, we should expedite the process to get them to sponsors within the United States. Look, let's keep it real, okay? I'm not buying that parents in Central American countries are sending their children to the United States without any potential sponsors or family members within the United States. They do have family members. They do have sponsors. And the question is Congress going to do what's necessary by doing away with that ridiculous filibuster to ensure that we have the necessary funding to hire more judges. Okay, we need more judges for asylum seekers and do what's necessary to build that infrastructure to expedite the process. That way, we don't have literally 15,000 minors in these facilities, which reporters aren't even allowed to visit. I mean, if you're going to be critical of the Trump administration, and you should be, you can't then turn around and give Biden a pass when he's implementing very similar policies. Right before the Biden administration was inaugurated, a federal judge indicated that the Trump administration could not immediately deport unaccompanied minors, right? So what I'm seeing right now is that the Biden administration is trying to make themselves more distinct from Trump's administration by saying, look, we're more compassionate because Trump deported everyone. We're not deporting the unaccompanied minors. But no, that wasn't their decision. Toward the tail end of Trump's administration, he also was not able to deport minors because of the federal courts. So to make it seem as though this was something that the Biden administration is doing because they're far better and more compassionate, it's just not true, right? And yes, it's a difficult situation because we do still have to deal with the pandemic. These facilities cannot be at capacity. They have to limit capacity as a result of the pandemic. You have seen an increase in unaccompanied minors coming to the border. That's been true based on Customs and Border Protection. That's been true for the last 9 months, meaning that this trend really began under the Trump administration. But, again, what we've seen from Biden so far hasn't even been satisfactory. It has not been humane. And again, holistic approach, because for anything real to happen, not just with immigration, but with every other issue that impacts our lives, we need this broken Senate to do away with ridiculous, traditional, arbitrary rules that are unnecessary, that are literally put in place to prevent Congress from passing legislation that allows people to live lives of dignity.
Actually, you remind me of that saying, Anna, like everything that you said, absolutely powerful. But it's like, it's 7 o'clock over there and you're already like throwing haymakers and dropping, you droning folks from 30,000 feet at 7 o'clock in the morning. What's it saying? Like you just roll out of bed and do it. Here's the other side of the problem that we have when we have to speak truth to power, wherever that truth takes us. On the opposite side, you have the hypocrites over at Fox News who actually want to use this opportunity to attack the Biden administration as if the Trump administration was somehow more humane and more compassionate. Let's take a look at that clip.
Mitt Romney had a really good point. He said that what they are doing down there at the border now by saying don't come yet, or by accepting children but not the parents, that is actually a de facto child separation policy.
It is.
So now you have all of these kids.
It's pretty hard to see it any other way. It's hard to see this as any more humane than what happened under the Trump administration. And in many ways, you could make an argument that was more humane. The signal that was sent, in the beginning, the signal misfired. The idea was don't come, right? Because you'll be separated from your children.
Well, it got away from them, and that basically it was like we are going to separate you to deter you from coming,
which was
So this is the opposite side of the equation. That was Fox anchor Martha Mack. Anna, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, she says it's really difficult to see this in any other way. No, it's not that difficult. All you need to know is the facts, which I'm sure she knows the facts. There's a difference between meeting families at the border and literally ripping children away from their parents and putting them in detention centers. That's different from what we're seeing under the Biden administration with unaccompanied minors, meaning children, minors without their parents, minors without adults, are showing up to the border, and they're not being taken away from their parents. Unfortunately, they're being placed in these detention centers for far too long. And I think there is an issue with the lack of transparency with the Biden administration not allowing journalists to go into these facilities to see what they really look like. But putting that aside, there is a difference in regard to what the Trump administration did with their so-called zero tolerance policy. You had Jeff Sessions doing his ridiculous little tour, bragging about it as a deterrent, even though it didn't serve as a deterrent. It was nothing more than an awful debacle, a tragic debacle that, not only took children away from their parents, but they didn't even care to track what happened to the parents. So we still have those minors, some of those minors who haven't been united with their families yet. Okay, that is different from unaccompanied minors showing up to the border. Biden has not implemented a similar zero tolerance policy, and it's important to be clear about that.
Anna, I got a million and one questions that I want to talk to you about, but obviously we're not going to have a whole lot of time. But I do want to ask you to speak on one other thing, and Rebecca, you feel free to get in here. This space is overwhelmingly male dominated, and it's overwhelmingly white men. But this is such an important space to have a diversity of voices, especially voices that can speak truth to power from their contextualized experience. I remember an episode that I was in the audience section in the chat room, and you were looking at the comments from even your audience and the amount of misogyny and sexism that was coming from the crowd, and obviously YouTube is not a good indicator of y'all audience as much as who can fund the most trolls to come into your comment section. But I'm just curious, what is your perspective after 14 years of doing this with regard to actual voices, the diversity of voices in this particular space?
Well, the thing that I've definitely noticed is that, and Cenk and I had a pretty long conversation about this recently. The misogyny, the threats, all of that stuff that you've seen in comments and all that, it discourages important voices from speaking out. And it's really depressing because, I guess like the thing that people have a difficult time doing, myself included, is getting out of their own head and seeing things from other people's perspective. So, the question I asked Cenk is like, why don't they just speak out? I know that they have really important things to say. And he's like, you can't like project your own, either your own weakness, your own strength, your own anything onto anyone else. And like, for me, my position is, you're going to come at me and you're trying to intimidate me. Well, I'm going to steamroll because I'm not going to let you have that kind of power over me. But I understand that that's not an easy perspective to have. And don't get me wrong. I mean, like, I've gone through some pretty dark phases in my career. There have been times where I've like had pretty severe depression and had to go to therapy, anxiety, had to go to therapy for that. I'm a lot more private about my personal life than I used to be because of those threats. But I've learned to be a little more protective of my personal life while, I guess, upping the ante on, speaking out about injustices and speaking out in an effort, to do whatever I can to ensure that, everyone in this country, regardless of their race, their gender, their sexual identity, their sexual orientation, everyone deserves a life of dignity. There isn't scarcity in this country or in the world in regard to resources, kindness, love. There are very clear decisions that governments are making, including our own government, that treat certain people as second-class citizens. Certainly the Black community, as has been a big conversation for a long time, but since last summer has really been front and center. I just want to live a happy life, and I want to make sure that everyone else gets to live a happy life as well. And I'm tired of people pretending as though we're all on a level playing field. I think it's pretty clear that that's not true. And so I'm not going to let some rando troll on Twitter or YouTube or anything else intimidate me from doing what I think is important. Like this, what I'm doing right now with you guys, like, it gives me purpose, and it would be a shame to let some stranger or a group of strangers stop me from doing that.
I can definitely 100% times a million agree with you, Anna. It's like, in this space, it a lot of times, and I think I've been in it 5 years now as far as politics and working in this space. And I feel like it could break you down. Trolls can break you down. Working in a male dominated area where you're the only Black woman in the room could break you down. Then when you're just the woman in the room, it still breaks you down. But like you said, you kind of like come through it all, and then you realize, okay, forget all the trolls, forget everybody trying to say who they want me to be, how they want me to speak, all of that. I have a purpose. I want to make sure everybody is good, and I may not be on the most popular side of things when I do speak up, but it's still my purpose. And when I log off, I know that I've done something that I know my heart is full, and let me go get this therapy to get myself together and make sure I piece everything together to make sure that I'm good and then get back on here. But I definitely can agree with that 100%. There are a lot of women who are in this space as well, who have I know who share the same thing, the same story. But the fact that you're giving it out like that's another person's testimony. And even though I'm Black and you're white, we can still definitely agree on that. And that's what's so important in these spaces. We're not for Democrats, we're not for Republicans, we're for what's actually right. And even if it's unpopular, that's what we're going to talk about. So thank you so much, Anna, for coming on the show and being a part of the conversation that is important, and we all know this is very important. So.
The one and only, and actually, Anna, please get the last word in there, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. This was so much fun. I'm happy to do it anytime. And, you guys are both welcome at TYT. Rebecca, I'd love to get your info, because one thing that I think is important to do with both like our programming is to amplify other voices, right? And so TYT, luckily with its main show, has been good at bringing on, new people who have different perspectives, who have the same core values. And I think that's important. But have a different perspective. I think it's an issue when everything becomes so insular. And I've learned a lot from, the fill-in hosts, the co-hosts we've had on TYT. And you're right, Rebecca. I mean, we're both women, but we have different experiences. And that's why it's important to, share both perspectives, on our programs, and also to like uplift each other, because I think we all know it's a pretty shady media landscape out there, and I think there's room for everyone to grow and succeed. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Hey, James, that's it, man. I have nothing big to say. Rebecca, you got anything big to close with? You want to drop your, or not? Because if not, we can just play some music and call it a morning.
No, I think we're pretty good. I'm tired. I need to take a nap.
And it's early over there. So, Anna, we'll let you get to some coffee and get to your day. Everybody check out Anna Kasparian on the Young Turks. You know where to find her, because anywhere you've seen us, they have been there for some time. 14 years. Wow.
Yeah.
14 years.
For me, 14 years, but TYT started in 02. I started in 07. So it's got to give Jenk props, because it has not been easy to survive, and he somehow did it.
Yeah, no, they're coming on the 20-year anniversary. That's what's up. Shout out to everyone. James, the show is yours, and we'll see you all tomorrow, more likely than not, in the morning, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you next time.
Love you guys. Mean it.
All right, y'all. I'm out too. It is time to go get vaccinated, which started at 10:30. But
Anna, thank you so much for
I'm on CP time, so I'm gonna get there. They'll take me, I'm sure. Anyway, people, family, we love y'all. We love y'all. We love y'all so much, and thank you again for joining today. And watching Like It or Not, y'all. Hey, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff, man. Make sure you follow us on all platforms as well, too, y'all. Okay? Hey, we'll see y'all tomorrow, Like It or Not. It's your boy, DJ Exclusive. Love you guys. I'm out. We mean it. Love you. Mwah. Vaccine time, vaccine time, vaccine time.
Baby, we're fire. Feed the flame. We're fire.
Oh, he did have that background last time.
We're fire. Say you love me and I love you, but butting heads is what we do.
Feds be watching. Right.
Wild, crazy lovers. You love me and I love you.
Peter S., I appreciate that.
Just match the two. Why we get so mean, light the match on kerosene.
Once again, y'all, we are out. James Bub Williams, boy, DJ Exclusive. See y'all in the morning. Deuces. It's okay. They like seeing my face. It's all right. Ah, boo.